Moving on, the build-up to King Charles III and Queen Camilla inaugural visit to Kenya has seen the King acknowledge Kenya's painful history, attributed to the British colonial rule which ended in the year 1963. Buckingham Palace has said that His Majesty will take time during the visit to deepen his understanding of the wrongs inflicted on Kenyans then. Ben Trenjue takes us down the painful history of Kenya.
King Charles' trip to Kenya is his first visit to a Commonwealth nation as a monarch. Among the issues the king will focus on include tackling the more painful aspects of the relationship between the two nations, specifically exploring the effects of the state of emergency that the British colonial government declared in 1952, running till 1960. This was at the height of the Mau Mau War against colonialism. Renowned historian Professor Munene Macharia notes, as a result of the uprising during which about 10,000 people were killed, the royal visit is likely to be greeted with mixed emotions.
There is a sentimental connection between the royal family. British did a lot of bad things. So he is likely to say, we might have made mistakes here and there, but we are still friends. As a way of seeking reconciliation. So he's likely to be seeking reconciliation between the Kenyans and the Britons over the bad things that happened, particularly during the Mau Mau War. I would like him to apologize openly.
Professor Macharia says the issue is more complicated, but the home guards who assisted the colonial masters met out violence to the Mau Mau.
There were also divisions within the same family. Within the same family. You had people who were in the forests fighting. You had others that went into the detention. And there are others who were home guards, same family. Now, the home guards benefited. But after the fact, they also talk about how they were helping. Huh? Well, yeah, I know I was, when the government, I was helping this side until I was caught. Because I conducted some of these, you'd hear that. Those who are on both sides. And after independence, they said, I was helping. These are the same people here and here and there. Should they be forgotten? If they did? Is it tricky? Yeah?
The Mau Mau uprising began in the early 1950s. It was led by freedom fighters, among them Field Marshal Dedan Kimathi, who would later be captured, charged and sentenced to death by hanging. As the war ensued, Jomo Kenyatta led other nationalists including Kungu Karumba, Bildad Kagia, Fred Kubai, Paul Ngei and Achieng Aneko continued with the campaign against colonialism. Referred to as the Kapenguria Six, these leaders were arrested on October 20th, 1952 and tried in Kapenguria and later sent to detention.
And they were arrested in around October of 1952. The trial started in December of the same year, that is of 52, and lasted through to 1953. It was 7 years imprisonment with permanent restriction. But 2 years to the completion of the 7 years, the houses were built for them in this place here in Lodwar, where they were going to be stayed forever, separated completely from the families.
Being a British colony often meant locals and British laws and customs imposed upon them and lost the right of self-rule. The Britons bundled locals in concentration camps for easier governance and control, with some forced to work in the white settlers' farms. The Mau Mau War ended with the imprisonment and execution of many of the people seen as rebels. Due to pressure by the Mau Mau, the colonial government introduced reforms making it easier for Kenyans to own land and grow coffee previously reserved for European settlers. Kenyans were allowed to be elected to the Legislative Council beginning 1957. With nationalist movements sweeping across the continent of Africa, the British government and representatives from the Kenyan independence movement met in 1960 to negotiate possibilities of independence in the Lancaster House Conferences. The Lancaster House Conferences were 3 meetings held in 1960, 1962 and 1963, in which Kenya's constitutional framework and independence were negotiated. The first conference was under the chairmanship of Secretary of State for the Colonies, Ian MacLeod, in 1960. The 1963 conference finalized constitutional arrangements for Kenya's independence as a dominion, marking the end of more than 70 years of colonial rule.
This is one of the happiest days of my life.
6 months later, on the 12th of December 1963.
On December 12, 1963, Kenya declared its independence from Britain. After independence in 1971, the then Prince Charles met with Kenya's founding president Jomo Kenyatta. In 2013, the British government paid compensation to some 5,228 Kenyans during the clamor for independence. Kenya holds special significance for the royal family, being the country where the historic reign of Charles's mother, Queen Elizabeth II, began. She was visiting the country when her father, King George VI, died in 1952. As the Prince of Wales, Charles has had official visits to Kenya in 1971, 1978, and 1987, but he and his mother, the late Queen Elizabeth II, have also visited the country privately. For Channel 1, I'm Ben Troy Njue.